What can parents do about school avoidance problems? I'm Nicholeen Peck, and I teach parenting, good communication, and how to build strong family bonds all over the world through the lens of the principle self-government. And in this video, we're talking about what parents need to be focusing on to help their children with school avoidance problems. In this video, we're going to talk a little bit about school avoidance, what it is, and then go into the how-tos so that parents have some things that they can do to help their children conquer this school avoidance issue. School avoidance, or sometimes called school refusal, seems like it's not a new issue, but there are some new things associated with it. So the children don't always really want to miss school. Sometimes they want to go to school. They want to have a real life, but they have created a habit of avoiding school. In fact, it has become so fearful to cross over that barrier of that avoidance that they just won't do it. They pull up to the school, they sit there, they hope, they want to go. And some might say, well, they're playing games with their parents. And sometimes that might be true. But I think other times it's actually authentic that the child is struggling. They are having an internal battle. There are thoughts that are going on inside their heads that are trapping them in this feeling that they can't do it, that they can't do it. And part of that could be that our society nowadays has really embraced, well, hey, if you can't, if you don't want to, don't. You know, being broken is being okay. And, you know, having anxiety is what everybody wants to have. And obviously not, right? But it's like a trend to have it. And so they cater to it. They develop an identity. They attach deeply into these anxieties, so deeply, in fact, that then sometimes they don't know how to get themselves out. And that's where they struggle. So I do have a history of working with people with anxiety. For years, I did therapeutic treatment care for troubled teens. They were all between the ages of 12 and 18. And this is definitely the age groups that fall into the category of school avoidance the majority of the time. And these children, almost all of them, had some sort of anxiety that was more extreme in one way or another than somebody else. And so I do know about anxiety. Of course, everyone's is slightly different, unique, it's personalized, isn't it? However, there are some things that are very similar about anxiety, and that is that when we choose to cater to our anxiety, it's because we have given into a certain thought that allows the anxiety to increase. So when you feel something, maybe you feel like that's new, it's a new experience, I'm not sure if I want to do it, and so you feel worried or nervous, that might be a feeling, then you get a thought that comes into your head. Now that thought is the power part. If the thought caters to the idea of I can't, because maybe you've created a habit of thinking I can't in the past, then what happens is you will immediately go to your go-to of the anxiety. I can't. And then you get stuck on a repeat in your head, and then you won't let yourself move. In fact, it's almost as if your brain does not know how to pass that part that keeps replaying in their head. So it's super important to recognize when you have a feeling and then what the thoughts are after that feeling so that you can help change those thoughts to move past those moments of anxiety. And this is definitely going to be the case for a person who is struggling with school avoidance. Now, if you want to know more about why school avoidance is an issue, some of my thoughts, some of the things that I've been reading and thinking about the issue in general, then be sure to go to my other video about school avoidance, which is called Why is School Avoidance a Term? Because it is a new term, it's a new thing that is just being talked about right now in 2023. Hey, we're going to get into the hows and what you can do to help your child, or if you're passing on information to somebody else, what you need to know about helping someone through school avoidance, because I've been working with parents on this for quite some time now. But first, click that subscribe button if you're liking this content so far. One of the most important things that you can do is learn to describe with your child. So teach them how to describe what's going on. They need to describe what they feel. They need to describe the thoughts they have. They need to describe the direction that they want to go, and then describe the thoughts that they need to have to go in that direction. Well, this sounds like a lot of describing, but what you have to remember is when a person is avoiding something, they are stuck in the emotional part of their brain, okay? The emotional part is conducting everything else, and so they're not able to think very clearly. So the more things that you describe, the more you engage that prefrontal cortex so that they can actually recognize what's going on and maybe even figure out that they are lying to themselves, because that's really what's happening most of the time. Unless the school truly isn't a fit for the child and the parents need to be looking at homeschool as an option for the long term, then likely what they need to do is they need to help the child figure out how to not put themselves in this thought pattern where they get trapped again and again. What parents should do is discuss the situation when it's not the time of the situation. Okay, so make sure that you have a special meeting with your children. In my parenting training, which is, I have a course, an online course, it's called the TSG Parenting Course. You can find it at teachingselfgovernment.com. In that course, I talk about creating a parent counseling session with your child. So this is a one-on-one meeting that you would have with the child. There's a certain format that you go through for these parent counseling sessions, but usually these parent counseling sessions are designed to talk about just one issue. So you have the one issue in mind, you pull the child aside when it's not the time that that issue has occurred, and then you say, okay, hey, I've noticed that this is what's been going on, and I've noticed that you're not very happy about it, or I've noticed that it seems to be impacting you in this way. So let's decide if we want it to stay that way. Do we want it to stay that way, or do we want it to switch? Because if we want it to stay that way, then that's when we really do have a problem. But no worries, because if you really aren't going to go to school, then we can definitely do homeschool and we can come up with other options. So you have to be willing to say, okay, this is where we go if we pick this way. This is where we go if we pick this way. And just lay it out. If you keep assuming they want to go there because they want to go, they say I want to go, but then they're not really doing any of the work, they're not following through, they're not going, then you have to move to a different track. And you have to let them know that that's the case. Say, okay, let's make a plan where we're going to go. Now, we have to follow through on this plan within the next how many days? 2 days? 1 week? If we don't get ourselves worked up to it in 1 week, then we will go on to plan B and we'll go down the other track, and then we will not switch after that. I mean, I know that that sounds like it adds more anxiety to the child, but it makes them make a decision. And then if they say, no, I want to go to school, then you say, okay, then let's say it out loud. Say, I want to go to school and I'm going to make a plan. Then you describe the situation. Then you describe what they want to do, and you make that goal with them in the parent counseling session. And then you have them say out loud what it is. So they've got to talk to their front brain. This is what I'm going to do. So now they're pre-teaching themselves. That's one of the skills for success that a self-governed person does. Then you say, okay, now let's make a plan. We're going to baby step it. So what we're going to do is on Monday, we are going to go and meet with the school counselor and tell them our plan for the week. Then on Tuesday, we're going to go to our first class. On Wednesday, we're going to go half the day. On Thursday, we are going to go for the whole day. And I will come and bring you lunch and check on you to see how you're doing. And then on Friday, we will be whole day and nobody brings you lunch. And we will just step through it. You sometimes just have to make the plan. Like, instead of saying, this is a problem, this is a problem, this is a problem, stop talking about the problem. You've got to start moving forward now in a proactive way. Now, a big part of this is going to be what's going on inside the child's brain too. So there's a type of therapy, it's called cognitive behavioral therapy. It's very effective. very effective at helping people choose to have different thought patterns. And this is super important when a person gets trapped. So it's been some of the most effective type of therapy for people who have school avoidance issues. So you always could find a therapist who could help with cognitive behavioral therapy. But I will tell you that there are key things that you can teach your child right now that will help them do the cognitive behavioral therapy on themselves. So there are skills that I teach in my TSG parenting course. There's 4 basic skills that are for children. There's also 5 skills for parents. And really the children need to know all of them, all of these 9 skills. But in the 4 basic skills, there is a skill called following instructions. There's a skill called accepting no answers. Those 2 skills alone are huge self-government skills for a person who's trying to get out of the habit of avoidance. Because avoidance does become a habit, and that's where they're at. How does the person do these things? To follow an instruction, you look at the person or the situation, you keep a calm face, voice, and body, then you say okay, or you disagree appropriately, you do the task immediately, and then you check back. So if I were to use that on myself, then I would say, okay, I'm looking at the situation, my alarm clock is going off, or my mom is pulling up to the school. That's the situation, okay? And that means I have to get out. So I'm going to look at the situation. I'm going to keep a calm face, voice, and body, which means I'm going to tell myself, be calm. Be calm. I'm coming up to the school. Be calm. Be calm. Have a calm face. Have a calm voice. Have a calm body. Okay, open that door. Be calm. Be calm. Step out. Be calm. Be calm, walk into the class, be calm. So they're going to constantly be working on be calm and giving themselves instructions, and then they follow through, and then later at the end of the day or once they get to the first class, they check back. They might write themselves a little note on a paper or in their phone. They might say, I made it to my first class, success, exclamation point. I stayed for the whole first class, success, exclamation point. I can do this. Success, exclamation point. They need to be praising themselves when things are going right so that they see the good that's happening, because they are focusing solely on the negative. So that's super important. So when a person learns to follow instructions from their parents, they also can then use that skill to give themselves instructions and follow through. This changes their thought process. In fact, it helps with doing your own cognitive behavioral therapy as you instruct yourself forward and tell yourself other truths instead of the old things that seem true that keep trapping you. Now, with a no answer, a person does 4 things when they accept a no answer. They look at the person or the situation, they keep a calm face, voice, and body, they say okay or they disagree appropriately, and then they drop the subject. Sometimes a person doesn't want to do something, right? They don't want to. Well, then that's like a no answer. So they need to look at the situation and stay calm and say, I can be okay. Okay, I'm okay. Be okay. Now drop the subject. Okay, brain, stop thinking about this. Drop the subject. And you might have to, with each step, drop the subject as you're moving on down the school hallways. But parents, either your child is not wanting to be in an environment because it's bad for them, which could be the case. Okay, I'm not saying it's not. And in that case, just homeschool them. Do something different. I homeschooled all my children and it was great. Except for my foster children, they had to go to school. Or it's okay for them to step out of their comfort zone and do something hard. And those are the only 2 success tracks. You can't let them be stuck in limbo, because then you're teaching them to give in to this avoidance, to give in to the fear, to give in to the anxiety, and you will debilitate them. And it's not going to help them. They need someone to help lead the ship when their brain is not doing a good job of it. And that means they might get mad sometimes. They might get angry sometimes. You need to know what to do, and I can help you with that, which means you might have to work on your own calmness too. And if that's the case, if you feel like your calmness and their calmness both need help, I have a help for you, and it's free. I have a Calm Parenting Toolkit that right now I am giving to people for free. So if you go to the description below this video, you'll see there's a link that says teachselfgov.com/toolkit. If you click on that link, to that video right now, then you will get the Calm Parenting Toolkit for free. That will be 10 tools to help you with your calmness. It will get you on the road to self-government. It is a beginning course. It is not the entire course at all. There's more to learn after that, but it will be a great first start to help you understand how calmness can help you and your children. So click on the link to that course now and you can have it for free. I'll see you there.